What up, what up? It's Dexter Henry, your host of the NBA Exchange on this Wednesday edition of the show. And on this episode, we'll talk a little bit about the league telling the Nets they can't use a clock that the fans seem to enjoy. Also, we'll talk about player rest and if that matters, and should the league make changes to their regular season schedule. All that coming up on the NBA Exchange. Now, if you know me, I love basketball, but I'm also all about having fun around the game, fans having fun, teams having fun. And the Brooklyn Nets, they've leaned into that fun. You gotta like when fans are getting on players when they come into an arena. And one of the things that's been noticeable is Giannis Antetokounmpo takes a long time to shoot his free throws. Fans have noticed it, the Brooklyn Nets have noticed this, and this is nothing new too, right? Because we've seen other players do this. Karl Malone back in the day was very notable. He used to take a long time, and fans in other arenas used to count how long it took for him to shoot his free throws. Now, you're supposed to shoot your free throws, and the refs are supposed to count it within 10 seconds. But for Giannis, that hasn't been happening. So what the Brooklyn Nets do? They took matters into their own hands, and I really like what they did here. So each time Giannis stepped to the line back in game one of the series, he was greeted by this great multimedia experience. On the big Daktronics board, the Jumbotron up above the court, a digital clock came up and counted down the number of seconds Giannis held the ball before shooting it. And this was great because the fans got into it. They started as well in terms of counting down how long it was. And, Giannis isn't shooting well from the line. So maybe this is actually getting into his head. But no, the NBA, they had to be the fun police on this. They didn't have to, but they did. There was no need for them to be the fun police on this. So what did? They asked the Nets to stop using the Giannis Antetokounmpo countdown clock. Boo. You didn't have to do this, NBA. There was no need to do this. Everybody knows that this is going on. And I understand to some degree why the league did it, because they don't want it to look like the refs aren't doing their job, even though everybody can see that the refs aren't doing their job in terms of counting down and holding Giannis accountable to that 10-second rule. But here's the thing. So the league says, Brooklyn, you can't do this anymore. Nets, they removed it. They decided to replace it with Mr. Whammy, a fan favorite in there, distracting Giannis while he shoots free throws. But you know who stepped up? Nets fans did. Take a listen to what they did.
Go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15.
That's right. Shout out to the Brooklyn Brigade. They still know how to count to 10, even if the refs don't, even if the league won't let the Nets have the clock up on the Jumbotron. And here's the thing. Whether the league stopped the Nets from doing it or not wasn't going to stop the fans, right? They're still going to do this. They're still going to count to 10, and it's part of the fan experience. So let's let the fans be fans. Let's let the teams troll a little bit. I think it's all good for playoff basketball. We shouldn't take the fun things away in sports. It's Wednesday. And most things in sports journalism, it's about hot takes. We don't do that here. We don't do that here, especially on Wednesdays. And you know why. It's NBA With Nuance with my man Jarod Hector. Jarod is here to talk about some things basketball without any hot takes.
Yes, sir.
It's hard for some of y'all to grasp that, but it's possible. It can be done. We are doing it. We're here to let you know. Jarod, how you doing this week, man? It's a hot week here in New York. How you doing?
I'm doing well, man. Got my run in early, got away from that humidity. But as you said, Dex, we are the antithesis of hot takes. All right, Absolutely. We're here to give you guys nuance, man. That's when you go talk to your friends about the game, you don't just say, oh, so-and-so did this. But nah, man, let me tell you why that happened. Let me tell you the story behind why. There's more to it, people. Get your minds right.
Yeah, get your minds right. Yeah, I'm glad you're staying cool. Very humid here in the Northeast. And we talk about heat, but we're not doing hot takes, interestingly enough. But we want to talk about, we got a bunch of things to get into today. So we're going to start first with the Nets-Bucks series. Talked about this on the previous episode with Michael Grady of the Guest Network, who was kind enough to join me to talk about that before Game 2. Game 2 happens. The Nets demolished the Bucks 125-86. Jarod, Grady and I expected the Bucks to come out punching. We thought they would have something for the Nets in Game 2. That was not the case. And now the Bucks are down 0-2. A lot of things that people saw from the Bucks in the regular season, they thought would be good for them in terms of the postseason and the ability to compete with a team against the Nets. But so far, we haven't seen that. So the question is, what's not working for Milwaukee?
First off, shouts to my guy Grady. Look, I think what we're seeing, Dex, and we've talked about this before, is the difference between regular season basketball and playoff basketball. It's just a different animal right now. And for Milwaukee, the things that they do in the regular season, the drop coverage, Giannis being an initiator at the top of the key or on the wing, you can do that on a Tuesday night against Cleveland, 4 games out of 5, or a Monday against Orlando, or whomever the dregs of the NBA are, respectfully. But against the Brooklyn Nets in a 7-game series where we're scouting you, we know all your counters and all your different moves, your weaknesses get magnified, and they get magnified, put on Front Street with an ultraviolet light, shine, like the ones they use in them CSIs to find out if you did any crimes. Yo, you can't leave nothing. It is full exposure. And the limitations in Giannis's game are on full exposure right now. And you're seeing it in what the Nets are doing. Remember in those 2 games in Milwaukee at the end of the regular season, everybody's like, oh, if the Nets are going to play that drop coverage and just give Giannis jump shots to walk up into, he's going to kill them. Well, they're still giving him the jumper, but they're doing it differently. They're not allowing him to walk up into the wide open jumper, right? They're getting a late contest. And then they know what Giannis comes, that hard dribble right spin move. Blake is taking it on the chest, drawing contact, sometimes getting the charge call. But even if he doesn't, and he gets the foul call, it's forcing Giannis to go to the free throw line. He is 2 for 10 in this series, and it's in his head and getting mental. So all the things that he cannot do, the effective, reliable jump shot, the actual ability to create from the key or the wing, we're putting that on full blast. And it's not a good look. And for Milwaukee, they got to start looking at some things and do them a little bit differently.
Yeah, I was going to say that. They got to start making those adjustments for that. Now, playoff teams, we look at playoff teams throughout the playoffs. The good ones are the ones who make the adjustments from the regular season to the postseason. And not even just that, right? Jarod, it's making the adjustments, as you're noting, from game to game, sometimes quarter to quarter, sometimes possession to possession. Have you seen that in this postseason, the 2021 postseason? Have you seen a lot of teams making those adjustments? And are those the teams that are most likely winning their series right now?
Yeah, so we saw the Clippers do that, right? In their 7-game series against the Dallas Mavericks. They went down 0-2 and then, it won 4 out of the next 5. And it's a difficult thing to do, but they were able to do that. They were able to do some things defensively, going small, taking Zubac off the floor, right? And then forcing the roll guys on Dallas to beat them, right? Luka's going to do his thing, and it's the others, right? As Shaq so often points out, but it's your ability to adjust. And then it's also the ability to, Dex, I think the teams who, despite what you do well to them, what you do on defense, they can still get to what they want to do, right? So that they're not having to adjust as much. I think that's also key. And I think for the Nets, particularly offensively, there isn't a whole lot they have to do to adjust to you defensively. And even if they do, they're still so skilled and excellent everywhere that they can play any style you want. KD and Kyrie are like, oh, you want to turn us into creators and make us pass the ball? All right, we can do that. Oh, you want to break them, make us in isolation? Okay, we can do that too, right? I mean, they can do it any which way, and that is the luxury you have when you have players of that caliber. And we know the knock on Bud is his inability to make adjustments within a series. And I think it's going to be hard for them because they don't know any other way. This is how they've been playing. Like, honestly, Giannis is closer to Shaq than he is to Kevin Durant. Like, and this is no disrespect to the 2-time MVP and DPOY. You ain't a wing creator, my guy. Like, you're not. Like, get your ass in the paint where the Nets are small and punish them. That's what you're good at. You think you're Kevin Durant? Nah, bro, that ain't your game.
Is it, in the vein of that, Jarod, is it fair to ask him specifically, maybe not just Bud and the Bucks, or is it sort of forced right now in this way that, look, you've got to change. We've got to start working through Giannis more in the paint if we are to have any chance in the series. And I will ask you, do you think that's likely when it comes to Thursday and we're playing Game 3 in Milwaukee, that we see a change in the Bucks offense or the way they utilize Giannis against the Nets?
The first thing I think for the Bucks, and this was evident in Game 2, they just have to come out with the right intensity and spirit. They just did not. they did not match the Nets' effort and physicality. Look, so much of the game plan is how much fervor are you using to execute it? Or are you just, just walking through, doing whatever? And they look lackadaisical for a game two that they said, okay, we won't shoot as poorly, we won't do this, we won't do that. They weren't attacking, and the Nets got them to go out of what they normally do offensively by forcing them into isolation situations. Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday and Giannis throwing ISO, I mean, that's okay. That's not ideal for them. Man, the Nets are happy to let them do that instead of them having to ping, 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 ball movement all over the place into open threes. Will Bud make adjustments? History tells us no. And if he does not, well, he's going to be looking for a job this offseason.
Yeah, it looks like that. I feel like the time is absolutely now for the Bucks to make adjustments, or the Nets can just keep doing what they're doing, and they're looking like a well-oiled offensive machine right now that has adjusted this game. And there's some argument to be said that Steve Nash right now is out coaching Mike Budenholzer. Mike Budenholzer is going to have to earn his money for sure in Game 3. We're going to talk about injuries right now. Yes, injuries we're going to talk about. There was a story from Baxter Holmes that came out recently that talks about data shows that NBA injuries are up in this condensed season. Now, look, Jarod, I think you and I, we're not surprised about this. We had spoken about this before the season, and look, this was a condensed season. There are a lot of teams that were playing off a very short rest. The two finalists from last year in the bubble out in the first round, the Lakers and the Heat. We've seen that. You read this article by Baxter Holmes that I found very interesting with some of the data that they found. What did you think about this? And is this something the league and also its fans, teams, players, everybody, staff, should everybody be concerned about this?
Absolutely, Dexter. And, that's why I'm so glad we're talking about this on NBA with Nuance, because this is a nuanced situation. Like, so too many times, and I'm really tired of hearing about this, and you hear people on NBA Twitter and different people, oh, injuries are a part of sports. I'm not blaming the bubble. I'm not blaming this. Like, that's just a very short-sighted way of looking at things. The injuries aren't black and white, right? It is multicolor. And the idea that there is no correlation between a shortened off season, the bubble, COVID to injuries, that's just not scientifically true, okay? We know one of the ways in which injuries occur are when you are fatigued, right? Well, when you are fatigued, you are not getting proper rest and recovery, right? There are a variety of different factors influencing that. Well, what would cause me not to get proper rest and recovery? Oh, I don't know, a pandemic, where my normal routine of coming to the arena, doing my work, getting my nap or whatever is interrupted because I have to come and get tested twice a day, yada, yada, whatever. What else is potentially a factor in me not being recovered properly? Oh, well, my off season ended in October and I had 71 days before the start of the next season. 71 days. It's not an off season. It's a month and change. I don't even know what that is. And then on top of that, you cram 72 games, which is what this regular season that we just concluded was, into roughly 20 weeks, which basically is 4 games out of 7 for most teams a week. You're basically playing every other night, which means no time to recover or train. And that's the biggest piece about the NBA as a whole, is that even with a normal season and the 82 games, you don't have enough recovery, training, and practice time. And notice I said 3 different things there: recover, training, and practice, right? In an ideal world, and I've talked to numerous sports scientists, doctors who are in and around the NBA, who operated on NBA superstars and physios. And in an ideal schedule, you would not play more than twice, maybe 3 times in 7 days. Twice is really what they say. Let's say you play on Monday. Tuesday, complete day off. That is straight recovery. Wednesday, you come back. That's a training day. Training, i.e., whatever your physio, weight room, whatever those things have to be. Thursday, that's a practice day, right? And you play again on Friday or Saturday or what have you. That is the ideal scenario. But we know that's never going to happen because the NBA is wedded to this 82-game season and the money we generate from the national and local TV deals. But, it's problematic.
Well, I'll say it's problematic for this, right? You can say that you're wedded if you're the NBA to this 82-game season, but if within this 82-game season, which matters in terms of the TV deals and everything that's going on, you're not putting the best product out there, I gotta think that's going to have some effect on fan interest and also, even maybe later on, the league actually being able to generate revenue because the product matters. Who's on the floor matters. And if stars aren't on the floor, that's going to hurt the league. So I just want to bring up some numbers, right? From this data, from this report that was done by Baxter Holmes with some data from ESPN's Kevin Pelton, the average number of players sidelined per game for injury to non-COVID-19 illness or rest this season was 5.1. Right? So this does not include games missed by players in the health and safety protocols. The next highest season was 4.8. And so 2020 to 2021, that season was 5% higher, right? Like the increase is even more pronounced, as the point I was making, when you're talking about the stars of the league. This season, All-Stars missed 370 of a possible 1,944 games. That is 19%, the highest percentage in the season in NBA history. So this shows you, the data shows you, as you're saying, Jarod, that when you're compacting the schedules, when players are playing more games, they're not getting rest, they're not getting recovery, they don't have the ability to train and practice. There's a clear correlation there. So you're saying that it's problematic. That shifts us to the next question, not topic, it's all related to this topic. Okay, you've got data that shows this. Maybe I know the schedule makers look at this all the time and they'll say, all right, well, next season we'll go and we'll tweak the schedule. Okay, tweaking is fine. Mm-hmm. But if you're not reducing the amount of games, are we really changing anything at all? So are changes to the NBA's regular season, is this inevitable? Or is money going to talk and they're not going to want to change it at all?
I would hope that change would be inevitable, but I'm not holding my breath because NBA owners look at, and I've said this to you before, and I'll say it here on this show. The NBA and its ownership and the powers that be often get credit just because they're not the NFL, okay? But the NBA owners are very similar in the way they view the labor as the NFL does, which is disposable, right? The average owner is like, what does it matter if we run Derrick Rose or player X into the ground? We'll just get another one of them next time in the draft or whatever, and we'll be fine, right? And keep this going. It's about the dollars that I bring in for the product I put on the floor. To your point about the product suffering and the quality, it is. This is the playoffs. This is the time of the year that we should be seeing the best possible basketball by far. And oftentimes we don't get to see that because why? Injuries. And we know the number one predictor in injury is previous injury, right? Like right. It's just, I don't even know how to make that any more clear. That is a scientific fact. And when you look at the soft tissue injuries in particular, the groins, the hamstrings, things of that nature, they're very tricky and challenging. And when you are rehabbing those things, it isn't just about the hamstring or the groin or whatever the soft tissue area is healing. It's about all the muscles and parts around it also getting back to pre-injury strength levels so you're able to come back and put the load on. And, too many people, again, don't see it as that. They say, this guy's fine. Come back from an injury. It's no big deal. No, it's not. And we see that with James Harden. And look, for the NBA, in terms of what they're going to do with the schedule, they should change it. They won't, because look, you know what matters to the NBA? What matters to them is how are we growing the game globally? How many cell phones in China are watching NBA highlights and videos? And that's just what they're driving towards, right? Like, and it's a shame because domestically, we could be putting out a better product. And the league, as you know, Dex, we're in such great hands right now. Yes, LeBron and everybody of this generation is aging, but my God, the young talent in this league is so good, and they're spread out all over the country. I mean, this could be a golden era of the league. But if we keep doing the same old stuff we did in the past, it's not going to show.
I agree. It's not going to matter if you don't see those players on the court at all whatsoever. You can talk about how great the talent is. You can talk about how great you're marketing the game globally. That's all good and well. But if the players aren't on the court and they aren't playing the majority of the games people would like to see them in, it's fine. What concerns me is a lot of the talk has been either around expansion, adding more games, like an in-season tournament, and those kinds of things that I'm not sure necessarily is best for the game. But I think this is going to be something to watch because the science, as you said, tells you that less games, more rest, more training is better for the players. This is all well known.
I mean,
so
Dex,
you got to do better.
The ideal schedule is 58 games. Each team plays every other team twice, home and away. That's it. All right? There's 29 other teams. You play every other team twice, home and away. Boom, 58 over the same amount of time. You will see high-level basketball on a regular basis because you're playing twice a week max.
That's what I personally would want to see. I'd rather see the high level.
And
over
the regular season would matter more, right? Because
I agree.
You're not going to have, no, we have 58 games. If we go on a 5-game losing streak, that's a problem, right?
Yep. You can't take the nights off anymore, even against the weaker teams. You can't sleep. It would make the regular season matter more. Before we wrap up here on NBA with Nuance, let's talk about a matchup tonight. Got game 2, Suns, Nuggets versus Suns, Nuggets in Phoenix for game 2. Chris Paul and the Suns looked pretty good in that second half of that game 1. Specifically, Chris Paul was quiet in the first half, turned it on in the second half. Who do you like tonight? I don't remember who you liked in this series if you were rocking with the Nuggets on this, but who do you like to win tonight's game 2?
Oh, I like Phoenix in this series. As you remember, I said Phoenix could win the Western Conference, can get to the Western Conference Finals. I like this team all year. I mean, they almost got the 1 seed from the Jazz. I like Phoenix tonight, man. Like, look, Nikola Jokic, the league MVP, incredible year. He played late in the bubble last year. And they already without Jamal Murray. We're not sure about the Will Barton and PJ Dozier returns. Look, man, when you got to play a lot of minutes with Campazzo and Austin Rivers in the backcourt, that's just going to challenge you in so many ways. And I just think that Phoenix, this squad right now with Ayton, with Booker, with Bridges, and the little, the point guard, the little general, as I like to call him, they want this, man. They have all the elements you need to advance. I like them to go up 2-0 tonight.
I like that. Let's just hope nobody gets hurt from being worn down from the regular season in this game. We'll see if the Suns can go up 2-0 tonight. That's it for this edition of NBA with Nuance. And although it's hot outside, no hot takes here.
None. No hot takes, baby. Nuance.